Well, Peter, you might be the first person on this planet that has ever shut me up for this long. Good old Heraclitus, I tell you, that wild and crazy guy.
If I came to you and I gave you $10,000 for 20% of the company.
Deal. Yeah. So, is that a verbal?
Younger than us, sorry to say, Joseph.
What, younger than 20?
Joe, we're just trying to help you because clearly you've lost control of the conversation.
I never, you know what, with all due respect, I never had control of the situation. Doesn't mean I'm overgone. What doesn't kill me makes you stronger.
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're insane.
Yes, it's Monday evening. It's Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daily Time, and it's time for the show. How are you guys? A little bit of late night salsa with Jaffe. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I am excited to be back with you. I'm excited for tonight's show. I'm not so excited about the fact that a little bit of weight crept back up. My family just came back from Miami, and with them came food and drink, I'm happy to say. So I'm healthy, I'm happy, and I'm about 2.5 pounds heavier, but still about 25, 26 pounds down. So I'm not complaining, and neither should you. Hello, Joan of Baumgarth. I'm glad you're here, as I'm glad that Charity Burrow is here too as well. Settle in, get yourself an adult beverage, and enjoy the show. Enjoy the fact that it is National Hanging Out Day. So I thought maybe National Hanging Out Day meant like hanging out. Like I'm about to hang out with Rich Bontrager. He's a C-suite network TV host and community development leader, but apparently National Hanging Out Day is a day when you're meant to be hanging out your laundry. I don't know why. Go research it. Go Google it. Let's just focus on the trigger himself. Tomorrow, Drew McClellan, Vicky Znavor, and then a little bit of a sandwich, a 9 p.m. Late Nite Jaffe sandwich on Monday and Thursday. Trigger today and Tina Greenbaum on Thursday. Cannot wait to have another bunch of diverse, exciting conversations. Of course, last week was the week that was, because it was the week that was. And of course, if you've been watching, you get to see the fact that on a Friday, I recap the week that was, show you highlights of my wonderful, wonderful guests, and talk about, the Jaffe coin. The Jaffe coin right now, and you can see it's amazing to think that there is $50,000 that has been invested against the Jaffe economy, the expanding Jaffe economy, 117 backers to date. And the Jaffe coin sits at $1.93 as well. This is all about an expanding value set, an expanding value creation for Jaffe coin holders, for regulars, and for previous guests. So keep watching the space and take advantage of this opportunity. Let's do some birthdays, shall we? Glenn, one of our regulars here, Glenn Strand, hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Mr. Dean Muranek, happy birthday to you. David Farber, Taryn Rosenthal Davis. And today on Facebook, there's Mark Alpert, there's Felicia Geiger, Toby Gabriner, and Joel Wynn. And then finally on LinkedIn, we wish happy birthday to our Friday birthday boys and girls, our Saturday people like Salomon, Faisy, Ray, Hanania, and then finally today there's Jim Wallace, there's Dean Crutchfield, and Howard Shaw. Well, let's get into our seated soliloquy. And tonight we're going to be talking about something that I'm sure is near and dear to Trigger's heart. and it is what I call defying the odds. So my guest tonight talks about defying the odds, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Medically at birth, surviving a severe fire accident at the age of 10, and more recently, receiving a life-saving liver transplant. Fortunately, he has 6 lives left, but I digress. Certainly, we can think about defying the odds from the vantage point of staying alive, but what about life itself, and specifically the whole notion of success? Succeeding against the odds, against all odds. When everyone says you can't, you say, I can. When it seems like everything is stacked against you, somehow you just pull it out the bag. When your biggest critic is often yourself, you find a way to win. You find a way to push through. You find a way to bring it home. In many respects, this is really the story about being an entrepreneur, being a founder, being a startup. Can you imagine what it must be like to start a new business today in these unprecedented times? Can you imagine how difficult it must be to launch a new product today? Can you imagine how challenging it must be to onboard a new employee, partner, or client? The odds are overwhelmingly stacked against us. The dice are loaded, the die is cast. We are not meant to succeed, and yet we must, and yet we will, because we are armed with the ultimate in superpowers: grit, determination, tenacity, perseverance, resilience, good old-fashioned stubbornness. The more they tell us to cut our losses, the more we'll double down. The more they tell us to quit when we're ahead, the more we'll come back from behind. The more they tell us it's a fool's errand, the more we'll prove them the fool. I don't know, maybe the joke's on us, or maybe we'll have the last laugh. Now, in the world of tech startups, there isn't just an app for that. There's an 8,000 or 80,000 pound beast called Amazon, Facebook, or Google that has to be overcome. Just ask me and how I've had to deal with my feed being throttled, or the inability to promote my show because of, well, you know, the word that cannot be named, the global Voldemort. So, do I throw in the towel? Do I wave the white flag? Never. Because even if the odds are 1 in a million, well, I won't stop until I'm the 1 in a million. And neither should you. Well, now it's time to bring on my guest, and obviously love to hear what he has to say about the idea of defying the odds. Let me give you a little bit of background. Rich Bontrager has cheated death, as I mentioned in the soliloquy, 3 times, and I'm going to ask him about all 3 of these times. Trigger, as he is commonly known, had a horrible stutter as a child, but has enjoyed a 30-year career as a sports broadcaster, talk show host, and keynote speaker. Rich is the creator and host of How to Rock the Virtual Stage, which airs on the C-Suite TV as part of C-Suite's network, and also on his own Rock the Stage site. Rich is an expert on virtual stage presentations and coaches top professionals on broadcast and stage skills to help them have a more significant impact on today's virtual platforms. Now, please watch this. Oh, you know what? I'd watch this.
Hey there, my name is Rich Bontrager, more commonly known as The Trigger. I'm on a mission to help you defy the odds in life, leadership, and public speaking. I've been a broadcaster for over 30 years, and now I'm bringing all my expertise to the stage, both live and virtual. I'm here to help you become a better storyteller, better presenter. I'm helping you to rock the virtual stage in a new and creative way. Watch some of my videos, get some exciting coaching tips on how to improve your game, and if you want to know more, reach out to me personally, rich@richbontrager.net. I'd like to help you to defy the odds in your career as a leader, as a speaker, as a communicator, and if you're definitely getting on the virtual stage, have I got some special stuff just for you. Again, I'm the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and follow and never miss another one of my coaching videos to help you rock the virtual stage and defy the odds.
All right, Trigger. Instead of hitting the video button, I just hit a background. So you know what? I haven't even started drinking yet.
Well, we've got to change that. Second of all, I want a copy of your soliloquy. I'm going to steal that, man. That was fabulous.
Oh, well, thank you. You can steal it any day. And you know what I probably should have done is I have this new little tool. So when I hit the wrong button, instead of swearing, I could have just said, "You how the
and now he doesn't need a drink."
I love that. I love that.
I did not know it was National Hanging Out Day. That's incredibly cool. I don't know about you, but this world needs a National Hangout Day.
Well, I mean, that's what we're doing now. We are, Anna Bowman, by the way, says, separates the wheat from the chaff or from the Jaffe, from the Chaffee, from the Jaffe. Who knows? I'm not really sure. But yeah, let's hang out. First of all, let's raise a glass. I have my Glen Rothers. I haven't had a good scotch in a while. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
I like the way that you've conveniently hidden the label.
To the unnamed source.
I see you're drinking a Voldemort right now. as opposed to having a
yeah.
Why not? So listen, Trigger, I met you. You were probably one of our Sunday night C-suite scotch tasting evening. And I thought, who is this interesting man, the Austin Powers of the C-suite? I don't know, the Tigger of the C-suite. You just had so much personality, so much passion, so much enthusiasm. And I said, I have to have this man on my show.
Well, thank you, Joseph. No, I do love life. Life is a great adventure. So I figure if life is a great adventure, I'm going to have as much fun as I can every day. So the old Spinal Tap movie, turn it up to 11. I go 13 or 14, man. I just crank it up and I go. Life is great. And I want to share that with everybody as much as I can.
I feel like we could be going down a very dangerous tangent to start talking about how Spinal Tap is a metaphor for for everything in life. I rewatched it recently as well, and just
isn't that a great movie? I mean, there is so much great stuff. How many one-liners? How many great content? And the actors that came out of that, and just phenomenal. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say they don't make them like that anymore, but then again, I don't think they make movies anymore.
Not currently. No.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, I haven't. I haven't.
That's why you have a show and I have a show now, because they don't make movies anymore. So this is where the virtual stage is now taking over the business.
That is true.
Now the new standard.
And we are going to talk about the virtual stage, but first we're going to talk about you, Trigger. So there are many fun facts about you. Where do we start? Where do we start? Well, let's start here. Let's start with the fact that you're a bit of a comic book nut. So you're a comic book fan and you used to run a comic book shop. I mean, that's like Augustus Gloop in the chocolate factory. I mean, I used to always walk into the news agent. I think that's what they used to call it in South Africa growing up. And I would run to the back and I would read as many comics as I could before they threw me out.
I can actually remember walking to my grandmother had this amazing yard back in Venture Woods, but there was a little corner store like from Mayberry, and we would walk up and they had the spindle with the comic books. I can remember I had Spider-Man #2 as a kid, If I had Spider-Man #2, I'd be a very rich man right now. But that's where it all began. And this looks a lot like my comic book shop. I don't know where you found this picture, but it looks very much like the exact sales retail spot that I would sell comics. I have loved them all my life, and it helps my creativity and my storytelling to use comic books very often as well.
So I remember, for what it's worth, I mean, I had I was a DC guy.
Yeah.
So Justice League of America, Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern,
Bingo.
yeah, and then there were others. There was Atom, there was Firestorm, and then on the other side there was also Richie Rich, Archie, Casper the
Jughead.
Friendly Ghost,
Yep.
Spooky, I think was, Hot Stuff. I mean,
Well, Vampirilla. I mean, come on. If you're going to really go down the tangent, you got to go all the way down to Vampirilla.
So favorite superhero?
Batman and Green Lantern. The science fiction cop Green Lantern is so cool. And Hal Jordan is still the best Green Lantern. We'll just get that one out of the way before the argument begins. And Bruce Wayne has the gadgets. And he doesn't need superpowers. He has gadgets. They're the coolest things in the world.
What about the Green Lantern movie? Are you still upset about that, or
I don't think it was as bad as they panned it. I think, again, like too many movies, they jammed too many different villains in the one movie. I think they should have picked on one and stuck with it. I think they should have teased the fall of Sinestro like they did at the end. They should have teased it much better. However, HBO is coming out with a Green Lantern Corps TV series. And I'm pretty geeking out about that right now.
I like that as well. And here's something else that I like. I like the fact that I've heard a rumor, this cannot be confirmed nor denied, that you might be directing this movie or this series. Is that true? Because you dream of directing a movie someday.
Man, that's a really good one. Yes, I really, really do. In fact, I was talking to some people in LA this week, and I shared my crazy dream. So earlier today, I was literally talking to a script development dude. I pitched one of my ideas just as a joke, and he goes, "That's actually really good, dude. Why don't you send it to me?" So I one day still may be able to direct my movie. I am such a movie. I watch the behind the scenes more than I watch the actual movie. Do you do that?
I these days I don't watch anything. These days, all I do is watch you.
That's a great. I don't know how you find that one out, but that one's really good. Yes, I'm a wannabe movie director. Everything in my mind is a motion picture. I see it in camera frames, and so I'm ready. Roll the tape. Give me a movie.
I mean, there's a lot in your mind right now, and on your mind and in your mind, and the third thing, and you'll be impressed to know, or maybe relieved to know, that I do not have an image from your past with a uncanny enlarged head on it. But I thought this was interesting. There are 3 books in your head right now, in addition to the movie. First of all, it's amazing to me how many. Clearly you're an ideas guy, and you're a dream. You dream big, and you dream loud. Tell us a little bit about these books.
Yeah, they all come out of life experience. So the Defy the Odds, which you did so well in that soliloquy at the very beginning. Defy the Odds could be a multiple book series, but I have defied death 3 times. And literally at birth, they told my parents, he's going to die. They do not have baby pictures of me until I'm 3 months old, because I was going to die. And here I am. And so the Defy the Odds, part of that is the medical mystery, the fire accident, the liver transplant. There's one book there just for that. Part of it is also the Defy the Odds of that visionary leader thing you were talking about earlier. I do believe in the impossible. Walt Disney said, "I'd love to do the impossible." I would love to hang out with, there we go, Tigger. I would love to hang out with Disney. If I could have hung out with Walt Disney, either that or John Lasseter today from Pixar. Those guys are geniuses. I love their creativity. That's where my head goes to. So there's a whole book about that whole creative leadership side within me. And then there's the faith side. I've been in church ministry for 25 years besides being a broadcaster. And there's a whole side of how faith interweaves with my quote unquote secular careers, my sports broadcasting career. There's a lot of amazing stories of people I've met who have also shared their faith through the microphone.
There's a lot to talk about. And, you know, one of the things that I first think about is you grow up and you realize that you were almost, I mean, that your parents were told that you would not survive. How does that affect you as you grow older, as you become a young man, you know, as you set out on your career? Does it help you dream bigger and bolder and better because you know, in a way, you're playing now, you know, it's with the house's money, that it's like, this is just, you know what I mean? This is bonus time. How does it affect you? Or because I would imagine somebody else might be debilitated with fear or paralyzed with the fact that they're on borrowed time. So how do you look at it?
Boy, Joseph, that's a great question. There's so many layers in that. I'll try to keep it somewhat simple here, but partly because of the stutter and knowing that I should have been dead, there was a lot of low self-worth. There was a lot of that thought of, wow, what am I doing here? How did I get here? I was almost the afterthought. Even though my parents did plan, I was kind of the afterthought. And when you go through all that, you add in the stutter and then the self-worth and the image of, what can I do? I'm also deaf in my left ear. I have bad eyesight. It's all part of the child birth stuff that I was given. So I stutter. I can't look people straight in the eye, and I can't hear. So when you play Marco Polo in a pool, they never can get tagged because I can't know which direction they're coming from. So I am the geek of all geeks. So instead, I turned to my faith and I turned to my creative mind. And my creative mind became my gateway to finding new dreams and new hopes and believing in that whole impossible thing. And that really began to nurture around age 10. That really came alive in me.
I mean, it's funny because so many people today are suffering from imposter syndrome, and they can hear and they can see and they don't stutter, and they actually have all their faculties. And it's a very interesting way to kind of to rethink and relook at life, you know, that and they're doubting themselves and they're suffering from low self-worth and they're struggling with confidence. And you almost, you know, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, has taken all that adversity, put it aside and said, to hell with that. You know, I'm going to bounce back, to use a little bit of a Tigger spring.
Yeah, the bounce back, the never say die, the defy the odds. I actually did get the idea of defy the odds. Screw it. I'm supposed to be dead. You know, I've been in a fire accident. Okay, I can't play football. As a 10-year-old kid, watch all the neighborhood kids play football in your backyard. I'm going to come back. I'm going to do something new and creative and different. So I always had the idea of, I'm going to beat this. I'm just dumb enough, Joseph, to say the heck with it. I'm still going to conquer it. And I still have that mentality today. Just throw another barrier on me. I'm going to fight my way through it and still land on my feet.
I want to pick up on what you just said about I'm dumb enough, because I actually had a guest last week that also spoke about being dumb enough. Now, dumb enough brings two things, right? It brings humility into the picture, and it brings good old-fashioned self-deprecation, which, by the way, I'm pretty, I love as well. I mean, look at this face for radio, which gets progressively redder as I drink more. But how do you factor in that phrase, right? I'm dumb enough. Is it really this ability to say, don't get in your own head, just kind of think, keep it simple, stupid, right? That's the dumb, right? It's the ability to say, just get on with it, get on with life, and to hell with all the intellect and all the overthinking.
I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my own skin, which makes a lot of people very uncomfortable. When they see me stutter, most people freak out. They don't know what to do. I'll joke at my own stutter now. I'll get on stage and I'll blow it because I'm so comfortable in my own skin that it doesn't bother me anymore. It bothers other people. So my trick is to put them at ease because I'm already at ease about it. So yes, I am kind of dumb enough to just think, you know what? It's not as bad as what you guys all make it out to be. It really is not. Now, Both my brothers, my older brother and my younger brother, are both brainiacs, geniuses. I struggled through school so badly, and yet I always had fun, optimistic attitude. I didn't need the brains. I just needed to have the belief that I'm going to do something great and fun along the way. And so the self-deprecation, the knowledge of who I really am, not who I have to be, I never had a pose. I could not pose. People saw me fumble and stumble so much, I could not fake it at all, Joseph. They just saw me, and I had to get comfortable with me being me.
You see, the funny thing is when I attended this Zoom event, right? Imagine it's, in this new hybrid world we live in, I attend this party and I'm the newbie and I'm a little self-conscious and I'm a little, a little bit too sensitive, if you will. And I see this guy who's the life of the party, and his name is Rich, and it looks like Bontrager, but in the middle is this word trigger, and I'm like, this guy's a character clearly, and he's performing, and he's chiming and chirping, and and he's the guy people want to be around because of that light, that magnetism. And that was my impression. And it's funny how we all go through life with different perceptions of ourselves and of other people, but that was the impression that I got of you.
And that has taken a long time to hone. And the nickname Trigger came out of my broadcasting career because of the very thing you said. Bontrager gets butchered so many different ways. It was also used in derogatory ways with my stutter, but the persona of Trigger came alive. I had the same sports broadcast partner for 7 years. We were on 3 different stations. We did talk show hosts together. He was kind of the straight guy, and my personality is kind of just be a little bit off. And I would do things intentionally to make the phones ring. I would say something a little bit off kilter, and my partner would look at me and go, "You're an idiot." And I'm like, "Watch the phones." And this whole persona of Trigger began to emerge of he was a guy that was just a little bit different, fun, engaged in humor, and then the personality began to come out of it. So there is the Rich Bontrager, and there is a little bit more of the stage Trigger persona, and they kind of play together. But also because you're in the broadcast business and TV business, the persona does get seen the way you described it. They just assumed you are that guy all the time.
You're getting a lot of love in the comments. Robert Collins says, first of all, Edison lost most of his hearing in his youth and brought us the first recorded voice and music that changed the world. Charity says, Trigger has inspired Joan B and myself to break out of our comfort zones and leap, or spring, I should say. He is amazing. And then, Anna says, we stand by you, Tigger, and then corrects it to be Trigger. But I think, and she's blaming it on the snow. So, there you go. And Cyrus says, a fish called Wanda had the best stutter line ever, right? Ken, it's coming to kill me.
Yeah. And I love that movie. Thank you for that reference, by the way, Cyrus. When I watched that movie with my friends, they felt uncomfortable because Ken bothered them, and they looked at me and they thought I had to be freaking out. And I'm busting a gut thinking this is the funniest thing. Finally, someone in the movie business got it right. It is that awkward and that repetitive. That's a great movie reference. Thank you.
Juliana Lowe says, this is such a fun, lively, and inspiring presentation. And Anna, the show is so fantastic. I look forward to it all day. Well, thank you. I look forward to hanging out with not only people that are commenting. This is the power of live and the power of streaming, but also with you, Trigger. One thing that strikes me when we just see the banter and everything, but also looking at you, is the thing about you is you are who you are. What you see is what you get. You're not overly, rehearsed and artificial and polished. You just are so real. And I think there must be so many people out there trying to figure out what it must be like to cope in this hybrid world, this virtual world, that are, just kind of normal people trying to be, let's say, ordinary people trying to be extraordinary.
And That's great to think that way, because early on when I got in the broadcast, and my broadcast professor said, Rich, you have a great voice, but no one will ever hire you because you stutter. Now, 30 years later, he laughs. He goes, that was so wrong, because I found the secret to me and the stutter and the broadcasting was I can't do hard news. I'm too emotional. I will get wrapped up in the tragedy and other things. So I don't do hard news, and I can't read the script. Someone else's words are not my words. I got in the sports play-by-play, it'd be like an ad lib all the time. Literally, I'm cutting and pasting and making up words and phrases, and hopefully they come out really good. But my stutter requires me to edit all the time. But the play-by-play, color commentating, the talk shows allowed me to be me, have fun, but it always was my own words and my own heart and my own passion. So you're absolutely right that people today don't try to be whoever you want to be. Don't try to mimic, copy, emulate somebody else too much. Use them as examples, but be you. Find your personality. Find your trigger within you, whatever you are, and go with that. Authentic, especially in the virtual stage. I coach this every day. Authentic is more powerful than being well polished, well scripted. In fact, Charity was just one of your comments a little while ago. I've talked to her and Joan, and I've said, you don't have to buy all the gadgets. You just need to do this and do this really well. The more you figure out your personality, your persona, your presentation, people will go after that and not all the bells and whistles.
I like I actually like this analogy, or this connection, I should say. It's not so much an analogy between having a stutter and ad-libbing and being spontaneous, because you don't normally associate the two together, because you got to think on your toes when you have a stutter. You've got to be able to, to dodge, dive, duck, and dodge. You've got to, and that, to me, it's like, I mean, we look at the world that in a way you and I push off against. Here we are, we're streaming, we're content creators, we're video streamers to a degree. We don't have hair. We don't know. I mean, you don't have hair. You don't, but the makeup, the 17, I mean, it's like the equivalent of, I guess, stuttering, right? Which is the streaming, which instead of calling it, I'm stuttering now, instead of struttering. I don't know. What's the new term for it?
In our world today, we've heard about stutters. I mean, we have a president right now that stutters. It's become much more awareness been raised of it. Here's a fun thing I love to do. I have a whole talk called Stutter to Stage. It shares my journey going through it. And toward the end, I share some slides of really well-known people who stutter, and it blows people away. Do you know that Darth Vader stutters? James Earl Jones stutters. Did you know that Julia Roberts and her brother Eric stutter, which is ultra rare that brothers and sisters stutter? Did you know Bruce Willis, Die Hard, stutters? And they all talk about the fact taking on the persona of somebody else allows them to become somebody else, and they can leave the stutter behind. And it's the pretend, it's the imagination, it's the engagement. So go back to my childhood when I was comic books, I was dreamer. All that played into, I now see a stage, I now see a room, and it breaks me through the stutter, and I can be free to be me.
You know what's coming next, right? Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. How about that one? That is going into the new intro of the show.
I set you up really well for that.
I know.
There's actually a lot of people that really stutter and they've found their own way around it. But one of those common things is it is the illusion. You distance yourself, but there is something about wrapping up and using your imagination that brings us to life. Coaching the virtual stage, I tell everyone, I believe there's an audience in front of me. I'm in a room by myself right now, but I believe there's an audience in front of me, so I play to the imaginary audience. We as adults put away our childhood way too early. Give me a box of Legos. I'll go play on the floor right now because I love that playfulness and that imagination. So when you're on the stage, when you're in these dreaming, visionary leadership roles that we talk about, You have to have the belief that it's really in front of you.
Well, listen, again, it comes down to not just authenticity, because we hear that word so often, but it comes down to, I mean, I think you said it. You said this idea, you just said, I know who I am.
Yeah.
So many people go through life trying to find out who they are. And the reality is that they're trying to be someone else. They're trying to be someone who they're not. It's okay to emulate. It's okay to aspire. It's okay to model. It's important to have role models, but ultimately, but not, I should say, at the expense of losing who you are.
Exactly. Growing up, and we talked about this before we on the air, doing these late night shows kind of now, which I think is so cool for you, Joseph. This is a great idea. And the idea was, growing up, I watched Johnny Carson. He's the king of late night. And I grew up saying, someday I would love to do that. Now, I don't want to be Johnny. I don't want to be Jay Leno or whoever it is you're into. I do want to be me, doing my thing authentic. And now that I've been doing this for 30 years, I'm pretty good at what I do, but I'm not them. And I don't have to be them. Thing to be in that space of saying, I know who I am. Now, as a kid, I do some of the same mannerisms, same thing I did growing up. I was a geek. They called me dirty names. It was horrible. But that same person is still here today. And people actually like it because I'm okay with me being me.
So I actually have an acronym that I use, which I'm using now, which is WWCD. Do you know what that stands for?
No, I do not. I got my own idea. What is it?
It's not what would no, it isn't. No, it's what would Carson do. And funnily enough, that's how I've been looking and modeling and triangulating, I should say, myself and my own journey, which is, if Johnny Carson were putting on a streaming show at 9 o'clock at night, what would he do? What would be the same, and what would be completely different? And how much of it is Carson and Carson clone and Carson prototype, and in this case, how much of it is Jaffe? And so I'm trying to say and find the mix, because I think that's the other thing, right, Rich? It's the mixture, right? It's the mixture of cut and uncut. It's the mixture of polished and raw, and it's finding the balance.
Yeah, no, because don't mistake that my fun, my off the cuff, my ad libbing does not mean I do not prepare. I prepare. I know my guests. I know the topic. I know kind of where we're going to go. And I leave it very free and open to follow the story. The story, the human element, is more important than where you think you're going to go when you first launch any show, anything. So I do a mixture of good prep, but if I feel the story going this way, the interview going this way, I will go down that train track because I feel and I know the vibe is this is the best stuff right now. And go after the good stuff. Don't stay glued to what you think you have to do.
So we got a couple of new acronyms here. We're going from WWCD to WWJD, right? What would Jaffe do? To let's WWTD, right? What would Trigger do? Well, we're seeing it right now.
I love the interaction. I love it. Beautiful.
And Anna Bowman says Team 03 Ozone endorses the show. We will sponsor. We will invest. We will give time. We will help with tech. I think I'm done. Should we just end the show right now?
Boom, right there. That's it right there.
I just monetized.
I come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Actually, you're gonna have Tina Greenbaum on. As a dear friend of mine, and I do want to plug. You do not want to miss Tina. You do not want to miss Tina. Just to make sure I get that in there tonight.
And she's on Thursday. You're gonna have to Tina bomb her, or a Zoom, or Trigger bomb her. I don't know.
I should fold. Yeah, I had to bomb that. You're right.
So look, I think there was a very important point that you made earlier, which is, don't take this fun-loving, casual, relaxed, jovial, beaming, bald-headed man, But you said it to me at the beginning, and I know this of you. I know how much you prepare. I can see it. It's obvious to me. And you just put me, if I needed to be, and even if I didn't, you put me at ease by going, hey, listen, you know what you're doing. This is your show. you do, just I'm along for the ride. And that's great. You don't see that often where, normally it's the host putting the guest at ease. You're putting the host at ease by going, hey, whatever you want to do, just have, you do you and I'll be happy to play along.
So let me tell you a little story on that, because on my show, How to Rock the Virtual Stage, I have great guests, wonderful guests. One of the regulars attending in the studio audience actually reached out to me and said, I want to interview you. And I said, great. What's your podcast? What time? How? When? And they said, no, I want to interview you. And I went, great. When? And they said, no, I want to interview you on your show and make you the star of your show. This blew me away that someone else wanted to pick up the baton, sit in the interview chair, and make me the guest and star of my own show. Keep in mind, Joseph, they had never done this ever before. They are not a professional broadcaster. They are just someone learning the trade, coming to my show, learning in real time every week. And now they think, I can do this. Let me take over your show. I told them the same thing. I told them, Joseph, you can ask me anything they want. Don't give me the question in advance. Someone else was going to run it, the show run it. They came on camera, and their husband told me she has 30 questions. She has so many questions that she's going to come after you. And they asked a wide array of questions. It was a great episode, and I didn't have to do anything other than hand her the ball and say, it's yours. It was fun.
I'm busy, by the way, pouring my second glass of scotch because I'm having so much fun. So cheers to you.
Cheers. Number one's almost done.
I've decided, by the way, that I'm never, ever going to say, for me personally, right, that I'm never, ever going to say to somebody, great question, especially in a presentation, because I almost feel like it can be a little bit almost patronizing, which is like, especially if it isn't a great question. Like, look, if it's a great question, then it's a great question. But I decided I've got a new thing, which is to say, you know what? I've never been asked that question before. And I love that. I love the fact that if you can ask a question that to me, that is the ultimate surprise, delight. That's the joy, the originality. So I'm wondering, when you were interviewed on your own show, were you asked a question you'd never been asked before?
Yes. Yeah. One of the most interesting one came from the studio audience. So the first half of my show is kind of like this. You and I. Second half, we literally bring everyone in live, cameras on, microphones on, and they can ask any questions. From the studio audience, someone says, how did you blend your faith and your entertainment side? Did you have two different ways, or was it? I said, I don't see it as different. I just see the world as this, and I'm allowed to be this inside the world. So I could be both faith, entertainment guy, broadcaster, pastor, and there is no wall of separation. We've created those walls. And that question is the first time I've ever had that ever asked to me, how do you mirror the two together?
We've created those walls. I'm taking a note of that as well. And it's funny because it's true. And I say this to a lot of people as well, which is, I am personally very, I'm different on Clubhouse versus Twitter versus Instagram versus blogging versus when you meet me in person. I'm the same person, but the voice, the authentic expression of that voice is slightly different, but I'm the same person. If I was different people, I would probably have split personality or I'd be schizophrenic. And you don't look, as a brand, you don't want to be schizophrenic, but at the same time, you don't want to be a clone on the same voice expressed the same way on different platforms, because there's nothing differentiated about it. You're not taking advantage of the unique characteristics of that platform and that audience.
That's a great conversation about branding and voice coming out of radio and coming out of what we do now with the virtual lens. It is a different voice, because this TV lens, and this is TV now, folks. This is not just a Zoom or whatever thing you use. This is now TV. 70% of what we now communicate is visually, physical. So you have to engage this. When you're on radio, it is all voice. It is all influx. It's all storytelling of a different nature. So you're right. There are different styles, tones, practices we must learn. But the brand as a whole, Trigger is the brand regardless of where you go with me. but the voice and the personality or the way I come across may be slightly tweaked a little bit. You're absolutely right. And
All
that's a
right.
skill. That's a skill we have to learn.
So I'm looking at a couple of the comments. Robert says, this conversation makes me happy. Well, isn't that just a wonderful comment? Thank you for that. I mean, that makes me happy. And Sean Watkins says, great discussion, Joseph Jaffe, and a trigger as well. But we have a question for you from Robert. He says, what was your favorite comic book character or story as a kid that struck you with a deep sense of wonder and hit home with you?
Actually, this goes back to the Batman storylines, and it was when Dick Grayson is known as Robin, Batman's ward, even from the 60s TV series. Everyone knows Dick Grayson as Robin. But they brought in another character after a while, and Dick Grayson went on to be Nightwing, a different hero. And they brought in this character, Jason Todd. He was a street kid that found out who Batman Bruce Wayne was. It did not work. It failed the comic book readers so badly, they killed Robin. Think about that. They killed Robin. And then the side effects on Bruce Wayne / Batman was a whole storyline of here's your hero grieving the loss and thinking he failed the kid. And the ramifications of who he picks next. Does he pick next? It became much more of a story, psychological, emotional storyline of real life choices do have impact in your own life. How we select, how we choose, what we do as mentors, as leaders, have massive implications. And that's a major story. Now in the DC comic book, that's one of the biggest storylines, the death of the family.
Well, I mean, you talk about the death of the family. There are many death ofs at the moment. I know one of the things that's on your mind right now is thinking about, just the state of, let's say, the political landscape, the direction in this country, this idea of discourse.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, like, I have to say this as well. It strikes me that one of the most popular communication platforms in this, in the world at the moment, certainly here, is called Discord, right? Discord, and it's staring at us in the face. And like, how stupid are we that we're seeing like that? Ultimately, the ability to have a conversation, a respectful conversation, even if we disagree with one another, as long as we are respectful and as long as there is a dual objective of being able to find common ground and move forward. What do you think about where we are, and what's it gonna take for us to kind of figure it out?
Oh boy. So where we are right now, I think we are a country lost. I think we really are a country that is lost. Number one, of good leadership. And I don't care what side of the aisle you are. I'm talking we are lost of good leaders. My father was a judge. My grandfather was a senator. My grandfather in Indiana helped to do some of the African rights and the civil rights movements, huge mover and shaker of that. I grew up in Indiana where I played basketball. Short, little, white, fat kid playing basketball with Hispanics, blacks, whites. I did mama jokes, and they did mama jokes to my white mother. We had no racial tension. We just learned that we were all Americans. We were all kids from the neighborhood. We all went to school together. We all were in Boy Scouts together, and we didn't know anybody, truly. I did not see what we now read about in the headlines. I did not see it. We just knew we were kids in the neighborhood that played ball and did life together. We have lost the ability because of some of the leadership and the barriers and the walls we talked about earlier, Joseph. We've created some lines in the sand that were never there. And I wish we could get back to the unity, the love, the openness. Like you said, the open communication. As a broadcaster, I've interviewed a lot of people that have polar opposite views of each other. But if you can come to the microphone together and say, I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to listen to you. We're not going to do the screaming and yelling and storm off stage thing. We're actually going to have a dialogue and a debate. And at the end of the night, we're going to shake hands and walk off stage because you're still human. I'm still human. Those days were so amazing. And I would really love to see us get back to that.
I mean, I still wonder how much of it is theatrics and wearing masks and playing roles. You know, I've so much concern about the fact that, look, if you are being brought onto one of these cable news networks, and I don't mean to use even the words intentionally, but on either side, you're being brought in to play a role. You're either representing the left or you're representing the right. And if you're being brought in to represent the left, but you take the side of the right, or if you're being brought in to, take this, to talk about the right and defend the left, guess what's going to happen? You're not going to be invited back.
Oh, no, your legs would be cut out from underneath you right away. The other thing growing up was within this landscape is you had a platform. Here's what we stand for. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our dream. It was always about the next dream, the next positive thing, but there was always a platform of here's what I will and will not do. Over the last several years, the last several campaign cycles, we have not heard platform views. We have heard mudslinging, angerness, upset, shots at family. And again, coming from a political family, you didn't take a shot at the opponent's family. You never did that. It was just unheard of. It was about platforms, integrity. Here's what I believe. Here's what I want to help you with. And then you, Joseph, what do you believe we should do? And you could have polar differences, but it wasn't this, like you said, the show, the personas. It was, here's what we believe will help our nation, our cities, and our communities. I really wish we could get back to that.
So what can we do to get back there? And maybe in many respects, do people like yourself and myself doing our own thing, being entrepreneurs and streamers, right? Creating content and doing it independently and direct to our community, where we know that A, we have to respect our community, but B, we have to respect our guests, but C, we have to respect ourselves.
Yes, and you need to know that whole line back and forth of how much rope do you give your guest? Are you going to censor it? Are you going to edit? There's been a lot of talk about that lately. 60 Minutes, hate to point them out, but 60 Minutes got hit again with a major hack job recently. If you're going to do this business, you edit only because you have bad hiccup, bad sound noise, airplanes flying over. You do not edit to make your story the way you want the story to run. You do the interview straight up and let the story be the story. Information is key right now. I do rethink the media moguls are breaking up right now. We are not going to have the ABC, the CBSs. The media as it is now is going to change, and it is. This new platform is going to become the new way to get real news. Street level, action-oriented news, and it's going to be unfiltered. And you can pick where you want to go to get it, who you want to listen to. Even during the riots up in Minneapolis, just watching the camera roll with no official news anchor, you saw the violence, the anger, the hurt, the pain. You didn't need someone to tell you what was going on. You could just look at it and go, something's really wrong. We'll figure out the details later, but just roll tape and let's start discussing it. It was really simple, wasn't it?
It's fun. It's funny because, we've seen on basic cable, we've seen on some of these, again, news networks, the fact that certain words are not being bleeped. The words, and I won't bleep them this time, the words, bullshit or shit or, and in a way, I was talking the other day, it was funny. I remember being in Coventry, of all places, for a keynote speech. And I was in my hotel room and I was watching Hell's Kitchen, Gordon Ramsay, and they don't filter and they don't bleep. And I actually heard all the words in their, glorious, in all their glorious nakedness. Passion, better word. And I felt a little uncomfortable in that perspective because I wasn't used to it. But I think you just nailed it earlier, which is to say, the future of discourse, the future of news is the same thing that we've seen in magazines. No more Photoshop, no more retouching. Let it just be as it is meant to be, because that is, quite frankly, the truth.
Yeah, and I think we need to get back to that. Walter Cronkite back in the day, he would end the newscast, and this is today. He would name the day, and that's the way it was. It was just as much as even back then there was editing. There was less editing. It was more of let's just tell you what happened today. It was ugly. It was hard. It was painful. It was good. It was joyful. And you, the American people, have to go figure out what you're going to do with the information. Journalism was built on we're just informers. We are not editors. We are just relayers of the action of the day. And you in your own living room have to decide what you're going to do with the information. Some of this, your question about how do we fix it, we go back to who, what, where, when, how, why. We go back to the 5 journalism questions and nothing else. No more talking heads, no more opinionated news. We go back to that. And then we go back to good leadership to say, you know what? We are going to debate, but family and personal shots are off the table. Let's stay to the topic at hand and let's lead with integrity so we have a better chance as a nation, as a people, to feel like we're hearing something of value.
I love that. I mean, look, David Ogilvy once said, and obviously it would be tweaked now to be slightly different in the times we're living in, but I will repeat the quote, in its original form. He said, "Do not insult the consumer. She is your wife." And I think that point remains true, which is allow the public, allow our wives, husbands, partners, sons, daughters, etc. Allow them the ability to make up their own minds, and just stick to the facts, ma'am. Right? The who, what, when, why. I love that. I have another quote for you, which is a quote that makes me think of you and is inspired by you. Against all odds, a seed rises from darkness and beautifies the universe. And that was said by, I don't think you would know who it was said by, but it is a beautiful quote. This was Machona Dliwayo, who was actually born in Zimbabwe, very close to my native South Africa, Canadian-based philosopher, entrepreneur, and author. Makes me think of you as well, which is, you rose from the darkness and you beautified the universe, and it was against all odds. And look how beautiful you are now, Rich Bontrager.
Thank you, Joseph. That is a great quote. Again, I'm going to steal that one too now, but I will give full credit to where it came from. Thank you for having me on and giving me the chance to share this. And I know we're still going to jump over and do Clubhouse as well, which,
yes.
By the way, full confession, everybody, I'm a newbie. Be gentle.
We will do our best. We're going to go ahead to Clubhouse afterwards. And but before we do, I'm going to give you just an opportunity to talk about C-Suite Network, and I will flash up a whole bunch of things that you can talk to. For example, personal and corporate virtual stage coaching services. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about a new, this is exciting, book release party services coming to the C-Suite Network, and of course, how to rock the virtual stage show, which is live every Wednesday. So talk about any of them and I will flash them back up for you.
So C-Suite Book Launch is something I was creating with my own business, by the way. It's been great. I've been getting authors, but you can't go to Barnes & Noble. You can't go do this stuff. So how are we going to help you as authors, leaders, to get your material out there? So I created a book release party. Since I am the C-Suite team now, they brought me on. I thought, well, what a better way to help the authors? So we are bringing my program over and bringing into C-Suite. Our first event will be on May 7th. Joel Bryant is an author, prolific writer, great guy, and he will be the first one that we're going to launch on a Friday evening. So I'm really excited about that. And the other one, How to Rock the Virtual Stage, I do live every Wednesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time. I have different guests from all over the spectrum, from broadcasters, writers, to speakers, influencers, entrepreneurs, and we talk about how people have either learned about the virtual stage, they also coach on the virtual stage presentation, or how they are pivoting, adjusting to make their careers and businesses thrive, because this is our new business card. It's our new handshake, and you must know how to rock the virtual stage.
Well, certainly, listen, as I often say, if you're ever hard up and desperate for a guest, you can, call me. And most importantly, I mean, I can see some of those those authors coming and spending an evening here in studio with us. I mean, I love the fact that you've created this amazing outlet. So many people have written books. They're struggling right now to find the platform, the avenue to be able to celebrate their blood, their sweat, and their tears. So good on you as well. You can connect with Rich on LinkedIn. You can, of course, connect with him on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, or even find out about his latest comic book exploits. Whatever it is, I can promise you one thing, that when you spend time with Trigger, it's going to be the real deal. It's going to be the real deal. And you're going to leave with a smile on your face, and you're going to leave a little bit more informed and smarter as well. So Trigger, are you ready to Robert says, by the way, that you Trigger and Joseph, the late night show resonates deeply and sets me towards the netherworld with inspiring thoughts. Well, maybe he'll come and spend some time in Clubhouse with us. You never know. So we're going to head on over there as well. This has just been, this has been fun. And it's just been, I got to say, really heartwarming and uplifting. And that's really the spirit of the show, right? Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Well, again, thank you, Joseph, for having me on. This has been a blast. And yes, the world needs more hope. So shows like yours, I fully love and fully endorse it. Keep bringing the hope, the light, the love back, and some good laughs and a little drink along the way. It doesn't hurt either.
Let's do it. We can continue in Clubhouse, and I leave you with, of course, the one and the only Mr. Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.